Tell us a little bit about what you saw and being able to relay that message to Cora when you watched Kimbrel pitch and kind of help out so he wasn't tipping his pitches.
So tipping pitches, we hear about it all the time.
People at home understand what tipping pitches is all about.
It's amazing.
And that's remarkable.
Alex, listeners don't know this, but you and I just spent quite a bit of time wringing our hands over what we would talk about on this podcast.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a slow news week.
A slow news week, yet as hosts of the Tipping Pitches podcast, we care about our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just going to come on here and talk about BS for an hour and a half.
God forbid.
We're going to talk about
never.
We're going to talk about important things, and that's why it was so difficult for us to come up with subjects to talk about, because we care so deeply about putting great content out into the world. But because it took us so long, I have to pose the question to you to start this show out. Are we cooked? Are we done? The miners got unionized. Are we finished? Kaput. Can people unsubscribe now?
I mean, it is a little telling that, the miners unionized this week. That did happen. It kind of officially.
Right. Card check agreement.
Right.
Done.
Yeah, they're unionized. And we've obviously spent a few weeks kind of breaking down all of that to the point where now that the bow is kind of tied on it, what is there to say at this point?
Well, no, that's what I'm asking you, dude.
Yeah.
Are we cooked?
Yes. No, I don't think so. I think we're a little Adam Wainwright. We still got a little juice left in the tank.
Okay, so we're going to go get Tommy John surgery, and we're going to come back.
Take some time off.
And we're going to be throwing harder than before we had Tommy John?
Right, exactly.
So what's the next mission, dude? If our shirts have the power to predict the future, then what's the next mission?
Are we nationalizing baseball?
I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that in just a second.
Maybe we will.
We have a bunch of listener questions to answer at the end of this podcast. We're going to do some housekeeping at the beginning. I want to ask you a question about the playoffs, Alex. And maybe we'll even talk a little bit about the MVP. But before we do all of that, I am Bobby Wagner.
I'm Alex Baisley.
And you are listening to the Washed Up Tipping Pitches podcast. Thank you to our new patrons this week. Those folks this week are James and Aaron. Alex, let's start with a little housekeeping. We have a live event on Tuesday, September 20th. This podcast is coming out on Monday, September 19th. So if you're listening to it, that might still be in your future. And if you're a patron, you'll be able to attend this live event. Who knows? Maybe we'll just tweet this link out and say, fuck it. Anybody come join, come watch the game with us. It will be for Blue Jays versus Phillies, 6:45 p.m. Eastern, and it will be occurring on Playback, which is a place that we have hosted one live watch along. You can create a Playback account for free, hop in, watch the game along with us, turn the broadcast levels up, turn them down, listen to us talk, come on the stage, ask us questions. It's a lot of fun. You'll understand it a lot better once you join that. So if you're a patron, watch out for messages through Patreon. Or we'll obviously be posting about it in the Slack as well. I'm really excited for that one. Hopefully the Phillies can stop being a joke of a franchise and help the Mets out. Although I guess beating the Blue Jays no longer helps the Mets. So
yeah, I guess not really. But it'll be a fun game between two teams who can't really decide whether or not they actually want to make it to the playoffs or not.
I think the Phillies will be in. This is the best Phillies team in over a decade.
Yeah, no, they're good.
Good for them. Congratulations to all of our friends from Philadelphia. The other piece of housekeeping, you alluded to it already. We're making new shirts. We are making new shirts. Those shirts are going to say, nationalize baseball. Because we might as well, if we pulled up and hit our half-court shot on Unionize the Miners, we might as well step a little further back.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
We're batting 1,000 on shirts right now.
In terms of like action items
right.
that have made it onto our shirts. Yeah, we have other shirts too. I don't think that we've gotten any elephants to sit on top of any of the owners yet.
No, not yet. Although I don't know, owners have weird kinks. So like,
well, we are batting 1,000 too because they instituted the pickoff limit. So steal bases are back. Steal bases, not wages.
Here we go.
At the same time as the miners unionizing. So we are going to be creating new shirts that say Nationalized Baseball. They will be in the same style as the Unionized the Minors shirts, meaning that they will be inspired by the color schemes of perhaps some professional baseball teams out there in the world. Only this time, as part of a perk of being a patron, you will get to vote on those designs. So we will put up a poll on our Patreon. That's patreon.com/tippingpitches. And we will allow people to vote on the 3 designs. We doing 3 new ones?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on what people vote for.
It's just all the votes come for 2. So that's very exciting stuff. If you are interested in the evolution of the Tipping Pitches merch, I will say it's not just Nationalized Baseball stuff coming. Some more stuff coming down the pipe.
Oh my gosh, Bobby.
How about that for a tease?
Oh.
How about that for a tease? Here's my question for you about the Major League Baseball playoffs, Alex.
Yes, they're coming. Are we talking real baseball right now?
We're talking real baseball. When do you start getting excited for the playoffs? Because I found in struggling to come up with topics for this here episode, I thought to myself, shouldn't this be the most exciting time to be talking about baseball? So when do you start getting excited for the playoffs?
I start getting really excited, I think probably the last 2 weeks of September, because that's when a lot of the playoff races are really coalescing and things are coming down to the wire. If you're, I mean, it's situational too, right? If your team is in it, that probably makes a difference as well. I know that, like, for example, for a team like the New York Metropolitans, this in theory should be an extremely exciting time to be watching them make their playoff push. Although I know that it's been a bit of a struggle lately.
It's been fine. They're fine.
Yeah.
The ship is righted.
Yep. Yeah.
4-game series against the Pirates cures what ails you.
So it's usually around the end of the month, and it's also because you have divisional games that are back, right? That's usually how the season sort of ends, is playing teams that might also have something at stake or have the ability to like stand in your way. But what about you? I'm curious kind of how you approach things. I say that as an A's fan whose team has been out of it since the offseason, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm ready now. That's why I asked you. I'm ready for the playoffs to start. The regular season is dragging a little bit. People often talk about August as being the dog days of summer as well as the dog days of the baseball season. I kind of feel like September is the like least memorable month of the baseball season, and maybe that's just because oftentimes that's the month that the Mets are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs as opposed to just eliminated in spirit, which is usually midway through July and August. That's usually when my spirit gets broken. And this is not just because the Mets are hanging on by a thread to the division lead that I want the regular season to be over, but I'm ready, man. I'm ready for the playoffs to start. The weather has started to cool down here on the East Coast, here in the greater New York City area. And I feel like I'm itching. I have that postseason itch back in a way that this is probably all colored by the fact that the Mets are very good, but in a way that I didn't think I had last year. I'm really excited for this year's playoffs. There's some new skin in the game. It's not just all the same teams, although, we already made mention of the Phillies. Although a lot of the same teams are still in it, like the Astros are going to cross 100 wins. The Dodgers have already crossed 100 wins. The Yankees are back in it again. The thing that I haven't given much thought to is the way that the new playoff format is going to play out and how that will make the viewing experience play out. But we have plenty of time for that as part of our like playoff season preview, which I think we're hoping to do in full. I think we're hoping to talk about the real baseball and not just because the Mets are making it.
Yeah. I kind of agree with your point about September being the month that drags for me a little bit. August is kind of fun because the trade deadline has just passed and there's a bit of a honeymoon period with these like players on new teams that you can get really excited about, right? Maybe your team just traded for Juan Soto and you think you've got the division locked up, or at least you're gonna slide right into the playoffs.
Yeah, no.
Things might be different a month later.
Are the Padres gonna make the playoffs?
No, I don't think they are.
It's gonna be quite a discourse cycle.
Oh my God.
If and when they don't.
Yep.
I don't know if we're fully prepared for that.
No, I'm not. And like Soto's been bad.
Like bad or bad by his standards?
Bad by his standards, right? He still has a 375 OBP.
It's pretty damn good.
So it's pretty fucking good. but he's slugging 319, which is
not ideal.
Not what you would like.
Well, let me ask you this. Aside from the Mets, do you have a team that you are starting to develop an affinity for as we head into October? Like a playoff team, maybe in the American League? Because I don't want you to have to sit across from me and tell me that you're developing a crush on a National League baseball team that might have to face the Mets before the World Series.
That would be tough, yeah. I mean, I would love to see the Mariners make a push.
Mm-hmm.
They're obviously a division rival, so to speak, to the A's, but I don't even think that counts or matters.
Ever been good at the same time? Well, I mean, obviously 2001, but other than that.
Right. It's been a while. And they're a fun team. They're a fun franchise. I like rooting for the teams that kind of just make it in on the fringes. I think I'm equally rooting for the Yankees to not make it.
Mm-hmm.
I think like my affinity for the Mariners is probably the same as my desire to watch a bit of an implosion.
It's a delicious idea that the Mariners might come into Yankee Stadium and eliminate the Yankees. It's very tantalizing, very intriguing.
Yeah. But more than anything, I am really interested to kind of see how the new playoff format plays out. The sort of, especially with regards to the third wildcard spot and the sort of weird incentives that it draws for teams to go for the last wildcard spot as opposed to the first wildcard spot or vice versa because of how you will be matched up against certain teams heading into the playoffs.
Right. Like, for example, on the NL side, if you got the last wildcard spot and you were able to win your wildcard round series, you would avoid the Dodgers until the National League Championship Series.
Right. Which is pretty good.
Yeah. I just, they've been talking about that a lot in the Mets booth because their division race is the closest in baseball right now, the closest among good teams. All respect to the AL Central, I guess. And the Mets obviously have two generational starting pitchers in DeGrom and Scherzer. And so if they ended up in the wild card round, you would feel pretty good about that in a 3-game series about having those two pitchers going in those first 2 games. You'd line it up. And they've been discussing the various strategies of how far should you push these guys in the regular season in order to try to lock up that first round bye. And I feel like we're all maybe collectively underrating this first round series going 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
We've never had this in our lifetimes. Of course, we had the 1-game elimination for the actual wild card entrant into the playoffs, but that was an entirely different thing. That was not 2 teams that really fully played a whole season and earned their way into the playoffs in the way that a division winner might be forced into a 3-game series in the first round. Like I know we complained about it when it happened, and I know we said that this setup is going to take some getting used to, but I recall having these same feelings in the 2020 shortened season playoffs, where at least it made more logical sense that the first round would be a 3-game series because you only played 60 games, and so you had less time to sort out sort of who deserved the bye and who deserved to actually even make it into the playoffs when they had 16 teams in that playoff round. I don't know. I feel like some fan bases and some teams who get bounced in a 3-game series are going to have a decent case to feel wronged. And I don't know. We're maybe putting the cart in front of the horse here because we don't even know who's going to end up in that round. But I don't want to have all these hand-wringy conversations when playoff baseball is actually on, because I want to be able to enjoy it and talk about the games and the exciting storylines that develop. Because as we both said, we're really excited for October this year. But as we start to visualize the strategizing that's going on for where you're going to end up in this playoff bracket, it does feel a little bit unnatural that first round is going to be 3-game series. I feel like that's poor planning.
Yeah, it kind of creates these strange incentives for teams, which have become not uncommon in baseball, where you are somewhat incentivized to think longer term about how well you actually would like your team to do.
Yeah.
The kind of thing that we maybe have tried to stamp out from the sport of disincentivizing winning. All that to say, I think that this time next year, we're not going to be talking about this. Like, I think the playoffs are going to happen and they might feel a little weird at first, and a team's fan base might feel slightly maligned. And then things will go well, and a good team will win the World Series, and then we'll just watch baseball next year.
That's true. Although this time next year, we're going to be complaining about how the pitch clock is creating a ball 4 situation because someone didn't deliver it in time.
I mean, there's always going to be something
in Game 7 of the DS where the team with the best record gets eliminated because they had an extra ball or something like that because they couldn't hear the pitch comm, and so then they didn't get the delivery off in time. That is definitely coming, by the way. I tweeted about this morning, but this Mets game that we're watching off to the side as we record this podcast right now, because it's a tight one between the Mets and the Pirates, they're having all kinds of trouble with pitch comm in this game. No one can hear it. They've had to replace it 3 or 4 times on both sides. DeGrom just stopped using it halfway through his start. There have been multiple step-offs. Like, all of that stuff is going to be illegal in 6 months. You're not going to be able to step off to reset the pitch clock. So no matter what the reason for your step-off is, if it's because of pitch comm, there's no way to prove that you can actually hear it or can actually hear it. So I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out next year.
Yeah, me too. I'm so excited, man.
You're excited.
This is going to be so much to complain about.
And you like that. You like having more to complain about.
It's why we get on here every week, isn't it?
Yeah, but usually we don't complain about actual games.
No, I know.
We're not those type of fans.
No, but we do talk about the mechanics of the game, right? And how well or not well it goes off. I mean, it wouldn't be the Major League Baseball postseason under Rob Manfred if there wasn't
some extremely avoidable controversy.
Right, exactly. If we weren't having some moral panic conversation.
That's exactly right. Speaking of moral panics, the MVP debate. Just kidding, I don't want to talk about that. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, listener question.
And that's about the time she walked away from me. Nobody likes you when you're 23.
All right, Alex, let's do listener questions. This first question is a voicemail.
Hey guys, it's Becca. If you had to redo the Triple Crown Award with any 3 statistics, what 3 would you choose?
Becca later clarified in the Slack that she would like us to give a serious answer to this question, which is funny that she had to specify that, as well as a sicko answer. So anything of our choosing. It might be easier to start with the serious answer. What do you think for replacing the Triple Crown?
I mean, I actually think that 2 out of the 3 stats that compose the Triple Crown are fine.
Yeah.
I think batting average and home runs are actually a pretty decent indicator of how good of a year you had, especially when combined together.
What do you think about if you hit 58 home runs? Is that a good year?
No, it's not.
Right.
Yeah. I've seen it before. I'm just saying.
You haven't seen before is a starting pitcher who hits.
Wait, why is that? Is it because pitchers aren't really good hitters generally, or? I would. I think.
I never really no-sell you entirely. I should start doing that more.
Yeah.
Just radio silence to what you say.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not on the radio. We're not going to get fined by the FCC for dead air.
No.
I'll leave dead air in here. Fuck it. You're pissing me off. I'll just ghost you.
That's fine. We'll power through. I mean, the first answer that came to my mind is stolen bases.
Oh, interesting.
Because it rewards 3 really unique skills in the game, right?
Yeah.
Contact, power, and speed.
So like basically like the 3 hit tools.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Now, I think we'll probably never see another Triple Crown winner if that's the case. I don't remember the last time that the home run leader led in stolen bases as well. It was probably Trout, but that's obviously just not the way baseball is played anymore. The guys who hit the most home runs are usually not the ones who have a propensity for stealing dozens of bases. But man, it would be insane when someone actually wins that.
Of the people who could do that, I think it's Acuna, Trout, Tatis, although I don't think he could hit for that much average.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else?
I think Julio is a similar case to Tatis, where he'll get the home runs and stolen bases, I think. and probably could get there with average, with a little more seasoning.
Maybe. Although I don't know how you lead the league in home runs while trying to hit for average like that.
Well,
which is the original Triple Crown.
That is kind of what the Triple Crown is about, right?
Right. Well, that's kind of what Aaron Judge is doing right now, except he's not pitching. So
yeah.
When Mike Trout led the league in home runs and stolen bases, do you know what his team's record was?
Stop.
Sorry. Okay. If my serious answer is that I would replace the batting average with on-base percentage.
Mm-hmm.
I would keep home runs. And I sort of love your idea of stolen bases. I'm trying to think if there's something better because we already have like 40-40, right? And we have 30-30. And that is sort of rewarding an all-around thing in a way that I think the Triple Crown is designed to reward just the best all-around hitter. And I don't think stealing bases has much to do with that. Like, I think the best hitter in baseball should be able to win the Triple Crown every year. Like, should have a shot at it. And I think the best hitter in baseball right now is the two best hitters in baseball right now are Aaron Judge and probably Juan Soto in terms of just pure hitters. And I don't think either of those guys would ever have a shot at stealing enough bases to win that award. So you're right. It would just eliminate the Triple Crown as a thing and slightly shift the perspective on what that award is or what that accomplishment is, because it's not really an award. Like, you don't get here's the Triple Crown award at the end of the year. I don't know, man. Converted runners on third with less than 2 outs.
Is this your sicko answer or your real answer?
That's my real answer. Give Jeff McNeil the Triple Crown, motherfuckers. Yeah, the RBIs is the hardest one to replace because it's the one that already sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was an obvious candidate for replacing it, more people would just talk about that.
Right.
Name some stats, dude. Name some other stats.
Well, it's
highest average exit velocity. Braves fans would be so into that.
I mean, so this is an interesting question because it's asking what are the stats that are the simplest distillation of a player's talent, right? Like, if you had to evaluate a player based on 3 stats alone, what would those stats be? And I'm inclined to lean towards results-based stats, like for awards that are awards or achievements that are based on how well you performed in the year. I'm less interested, right, in like exit velocity or your FIP or whatever it is, which says this is how good you should have been this year.
The tricky part is finding something that is not inherently already influenced by the first 2 categories.
Right.
So like, like the sabermetric Triple Crown, so to speak, which I think is what you and I are trying to reach out a little bit, if not exactly land on, would involve things more like on-base percentage, slugging percentage, or OPS, I guess, and probably some combination of either WRC plus or WAR, basically.
Right.
But to me, WRC plus is already answering this question that we're trying to ask, which is who is the best overall offensive player. So I guess leading WRC plus is interesting enough in and of itself that putting it into one of these categories, it feels like a little bit unbalanced. It feels like the other 2 categories are already being factored so much into WRC plus that it's like not that interesting to lead in those 3 categories necessarily.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the interesting about the Triple Crown, the way it exists now, is like the statistics are somewhat distinct from each other.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, home runs feed into RBI and
batting average.
And a little bit into batting average as well.
Famously, a home run
does
count as a hit.
Uh-huh.
Don't tell that to Alex Rodriguez.
I mean, you could.
The tricky part is like WAR is the thing that we're missing in this conversation. But like, no one talks about just offensive WAR.
Right.
You talk about a player, you talk about their WAR overall. But to factor in defensive WAR is not what we're talking about here. It's not what the Triple Crown is trying to answer. This is part of why the Triple Crown has so much staying power. And it's why people tip their cap to Triple Crown winners, even though it doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best offensive player that year, as it didn't when Mike Trout and Miguel Cabrera were having that very famous MVP race in 2012.
Right. Do you think that, with the caveat that it would take some explaining to do to fans and maybe even to myself as to what it is what do you think about including like win probability added?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a situational stat that takes into account the various factors of the environment that you're in, right?
Right.
And says this is how much you benefited your team in that moment, right? So it's a little like RBI in that it is a more holistic representation of like how you impacted your team, but it
Right.
actually is a little bit more descriptive than RBI, which is just kind of luck.
I like it. It's threading the needle between what you were talking about, which is expected outcome, and what actually happened, which I think RBI skews too much that way.
Right.
You had an RBI, but what did that mean?
Mhm.
Did you have a poke single to the right side in a 10-run game? Did you come up with infinitely more opportunities to make an impact? Like, I think RBI, the problem that people have with it is that it's so situational. It has almost nothing to do with the person who's up to bat. And that's not to say that it cannot be descriptive about how well a person hit all year. If you have 120 RBIs, that means you got a lot of hits, you know? Like that's at least 120 hits more or less. Unless you're just hitting a bunch of multiple run home runs, which is also a good thing.
Right.
But I think win probability added is a much more even playing field. Like you have the opportunity to add win probability basically every time you go up to bat. And I think that's good. I think that's pretty good. So we would say what? OBP, home runs. Keep home runs in there because they're cool.
Because they're cool.
And
I like a
WPA.
stat that I can actually like see.
And WPA. I like it. Get
That's
StatCast
pretty
in there.
good. Yeah.
We nailed it.
Okay, so that's the real answer.
Make us the presidents of Sabre.
What's the sicko one? I want outfield assists.
Outfield assists. For the offensive Triple Crown, outfield assists avoided.
There you go.
Outfield assists that you forced the other team to fail to convert. Obviously, one of them is hit by pitches.
Okay,
Obviously.
Right? Yeah.
Obviously.
Uh-huh. What about like pitches seen? You know, just like ability to work the count.
Right.
It's like one of those like real baseball players numbers.
Right.
It's like this guy just goes up and he has like a professional.
I got one better for you.
Okay.
Pitches fouled off.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to reward people just for taking wild pitches. I want to reward people for staying in it.
Wow. This is participation trophy culture.
Well, I just want Luis Guillorme to win something.
So you want him to win? He can't even get a hit. He can't even hit the ball fair.
He's batting 290. All right? He's batting 290. Take it down a notch. Ted Williams famously said, you fail 7 times out of 10, you're in the Hall of Fame. Okay, wait.
Fouled off
Hit
is
by
also really
pitches.
funny because they're mostly strikes, like
Right.
most of the time.
Yeah. Hit by pitches, foul tips.
Foul tips? Like strikes?
Fouled pitches.
Oh,
fouled
okay.
pitches. Not foul tips back into the
I
glove.
was like, all right.
What else? What's the third one? I love converted third base with less than 2 outs. But that only happens like 15 times a year for each batter.
Right. So you're talking about like runners in scoring position, like RBIs?
Specifically on third with less than 2 outs.
Is it like getting a
Like, you
hit
can
or
get
bringing them in?
Either. Any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
Sack fly, wild pitch, doesn't matter.
Yeah, just what could you do with that? Yeah.
Wild pitches seen. Well, we're not thinking big enough, I think.
I don't think so either.
Becca wants us to answer, if I know Becca, which I feel like I do after all these calls and all these questions and all this Slack interaction. I think she wants us to think of stats that don't exist.
Oh,
Like sunflower seed spit. That's my Triple Crown.
right. Radius of the dip in your mouth. I mean,
Radius, I like it. Not circumference, radius.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get a real small
You
measuring
are.
tape
You really
for the
are.
radius.
Yeah,
of the
it's
dip.
going to be hard. It's going to be a really close race.
We need scientists. It's going to be a really close race. How about fans high-fived? We're here to grow the game.
So these aren't even players anymore. These
No.
or
Players who high-five the most fans.
Okay.
High-five, meet, introduce, any of that.
Yeah.
Most positive interactions, we'll call it MPI. You like that one, don't you?
Is that like a kind of like a win probability added
Right,
thing,
team chemistry, dude.
where
Trying to
someone
keep
is
it.
kind of making a judgment and saying this added 10% joy to this
Right.
fan's experience.
Yeah, I'm all about qualitative,
Mhm.
less quantitative.
Right. So is it a cumulative
Yes.
stat over the
Mhm.
year?
Yeah.
Cool.
And guess who's winning? Francisco Lindor.
That's actually
Everybody
true.
loves this man.
He
We all
does.
love
Yeah.
him. Most tweets liked. I want someone online. Unfortunately, Marcus Stroman wins that every year.
Like most tweets of someone else's who they liked.
Yeah, like to prove that you've really been doom scrolling.
So it could be, so we could have a lurker winning, someone who doesn't even tweet,
Exactly.
but it's just on there all the time.
I would prefer to have a lurker winning.
Mhm.
That's like the person who has the most WPA.
That's representation right there.
That's the person who has the most WPA who you'd never expect.
Yeah, these are good. I like the direction we're going in. Bats thrown into the stands. Maybe a little O'Neal Cruz action out here.
He threw 2 bats into the stands in one game.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. Can we get something in there that's like real tipping pitches core? Like to represent like the most based player or something? You know, like most organizing calls made to the minor leagues.
Most money donated to progressive politicians.
I'll tell you one thing. That's easy to win.
Yeah.
Anyone could just
Super
win
easy
that
to win.
overnight.
Yeah.
'Cause it's not a high bar to clear. Spencer Strider. Have we talked about this on the pod?
I don't think we have.
It's really challenging for me personally
Mhm.
because I want to hate him so bad. It's the first player in a long time that I felt really good about just fucking hating. And then I found out that he donates to
But
Bernie.
he's with it.
And I'm like, fuck, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I pride myself as a man of faith. Castellanos takes one deep for a ball game. No, I pride myself as someone who's a good judge of who sucks
Mhm.
in baseball.
But
And I think that I was my judgment was clouded.
right.
My judgment was clouded.
Right. I know accountability is important to you as well, which
I
is why
think-
I'm glad you're broaching this subject.
I think it is important to me. I think that he may be just like us. He may be a little shitposty.
One
Like when-
of us. One of us.
Spencer, brother, if anyone wants to play this for you and you're listening to this right now, after the tensions between the Mets and Braves have sort of simmered after the season is over, you want to come on? You want to talk about Bernie? You want to talk about feeling the burn? You want to talk about unionizing the minors? You want to talk about whatever? Cinema?
Whoever's running in 2024.
God, actually, no. Sorry,
No,
we
I
can't
don't
talk
wanna do
about that. Open invite. Okay, so our sicko triple crown, way back. What is the answer? We have to settle on 3 things. I think it's MPI, most positive interactions.
Okay.
So now you pick another one, and then we'll collectively pick the third.
How about butt slapped?
Butts slapped.
Yeah.
Good one.
hmm
Is that too similar to most positive interactions?
Well, but they are interacting on a different level, right? Unless
Physical,
I had thought
an intimate level.
Well, I had thought you were saying most positive interactions with fans. So there's a
Right.
fan kind
No
of
butt slapping
related
fans,
set.
please.
You're,
That's
yeah,
not
I
right.
please. I don't hope that's not going on. So there's a fan element, and there's like a teammate element as well.
Good. Okay, so does the third one have to be vibes related to? We're vibes guys here.
Right.
Radius of the dip. So funny.
I, like most time playing Spotify in the clubhouse, like a good vibes curator.
Yes. Highest playlist approval rating. It's over. It's a wrap.
That's it.
We did
That's
it.
it.
Those are the 3. Congratulations to us for coming up with a great answer to that question. And congratulations to Becca for asking it.
So we're going to get started on running those numbers. It's going to take a little while because we will have to
We got-
rewatch every single baseball game.
We got a lot of data people.
but
in
we
the
do have a
Tipping
lot of
Pitches
data
community.
people. Yes.
It's not just us. It's a group effort.
I cannot.
It's not me. It's we, brother.
I refuse to believe that we're the first person to think about this. So the numbers are out there.
All right. Next question.
Okay.
Next question comes from Nick. It's a pretty similar question, honestly. Nick says, today Rawlings announced that they would be awarding a gold glove specifically for utility players. If you could create a brand new award for MLB players, what would it be? Nick, I feel like we answered your question already.
I think so.
Thank you for asking. To the extent that your question might have inspired Becca's question, sorry that she stole the show. She called the voicemail We're just much more likely to answer voicemails. It's more fun to play them on the pod. Nick, love you. You're the best. Next question from Austin, friend of the pod. Austin says, is there any piece of baseball merch more useless than a foam finger?
No.
Austin, stop writing questions that you know the answer to. But it's an interesting question. What are the most useful and useless pieces of baseball merch?
Well, useful, I think, is pretty easy. Right?
Just a glove.
It's just like the
ball.
Yeah, I mean, or a shirt. It's like that's high use value with that one.
So you're talking about like in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, or just broadly speaking, or to a baseball game. I mean, generally, like a hat, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Great use value.
I
That
agree.
you can wear it to the game, you can wear it not to the game,
Right.
and everywhere in between.
And it's there for you when you need it, which
It
is,
is.
I think, an important element of this.
Right. So yeah,
Like when I haven't showered yet and I need to run out to the bodega, I need that hat.
Mhm.
You know what I don't need is a fucking
It's
foam
a
finger.
Foam finger. Yeah, they're pretty. Like you're not using it around the house.
Low use value, like signs. You know, like all those like man cave style signs that they sell
Yeah.
at ballparks.
Yeah.
I have a lot of pictures of you in front of those just from various games that we've gone to. You know, like real men wear blue and orange.
I think pennants are pretty useless. That's just why I've never really gotten the appeal.
What's
I'm like,
the fucking deal with like millennial aesthetic, you know, and pennants?
is that a millennial aesthetic?
I feel like it is, you know, like I feel like brands love to put up pennants.
Right.
You know, like you walk into like a pop-up shop and they're like they have the logo of the brand on a pennant hanging up and you're like, what is
What is this?
going on?
What are you
Fly
doing?
The flag, I guess. Like, what is happening? You know, I have pennants all over my childhood bedroom because when I would play on sports teams and you could buy the pictures from picture day, one of them is like a pennant with the team photo and then your photo next to it.
Mhm.
I think that's pretty cute. But in terms of like Major League Baseball pennants, there's only one pennant. Except for that time that those Boston guys stole the pennant. And then they had to make a new pennant. But the original guys who stole it were trying to sell it back to the team.
Oh man, we just don't get news like that anymore.
We literally don't. And you know what? If we did, we wouldn't have had to spend the first 30 minutes of this pod fucking talking about the playoffs, forcing ourselves to talk about the playoffs, which we didn't want to do.
So are we just in agreement with Austin on this? Are there other things that feel somewhat useless to you?
Swarovski crystal ball with the team logo on it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It feels.
I stare at mine every single day.
No, well, you sleep with it,
Right.
holding it.
Yeah.
But it's wrapped in foam so it doesn't break. I've seen this with my own eyes.
It is true. Yeah.
No, I feel like we have to peruse the MLB website if we want to really think of the answer to that.
Yeah. I mean, they sell a lot of like, home goods and like office supply stuff.
That sounds pretty useful to me. Like, it depends on what you're asking. Like, is it useful that it's made by the team or is it just useful in life? Because the foam finger is neither.
Right. Okay, that's true. Yes. There are things on here who maybe I wouldn't go to MLBshop.com to purchase, but where in my day-to-day life I might employ the use of.
Right. Like right now I'm looking MLBshop.com
Mhm.
/Mets for $31.49 only till midnight tonight though, Alex. So if you're listening to this pod right
Shit.
now, you fucking missed out. Till midnight, you can buy a New York Mets blue sofa protector.
Whoa.
See, that's useful.
How much is it?
$31.49.
That's easy.
Should we buy it for this couch that you're sitting on right now?
Yeah,
For
we
the
should.
studio?
Mhm.
We've been talking a lot about studio decor recently.
Yeah.
As we acquire various bobbleheads of New York Mets announcers. But it's useless that the team makes it, but it's useful
But
in life.
Some person will find use in that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in the lawn and outdoors section now.
Mm-hmm. You finding anything good?
Just a lot of signs, some garden gnomes. I think that's useful.
I think that's useful too.
New York Mets Spirit Series 3-piece barbecue set.
They're
Useful.
doing a lot of sets on here. They have like a tailgate set and like an
Ooh, I got
essential
one.
fan set.
I got one.
Okay.
There's a New York Mets tiki totem. $52.49. Not only is it insensitive, it's useless.
Wow. Wait, what
And
is
it's
what
more-
is on there?
It's more. Let me describe it to you.
Okay.
It appears to be Mr. Med on top.
Uh-huh.
It appears to be an angry-looking baseball player with his face made out of wood.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a block that just has the Mets logo. And on the very bottom, it appears to be sort of like a Mr. Met Jack Skeletor crossover kind of vibe.
I really wish I was in the planning meeting for this.
Do you?
Kind of, yeah, yeah.
You could get this for 20. You could get the sofa protector for $20 less than this.
Okay, so here's the thing. You can also, on the official MLB shop, I mean, this is, the pod's in a good place when we're just reading out different items on the MLB shop. Right. You can spend $4,639.99.
I love your energy of sorting by most expensive.
Yeah, I'm always curious. Yeah. So no Swarovski crystal baseball.
They got rid of it.
Unfortunately, they got rid of it. I think it's sold out.
No,
right.
We bought them all.
Yeah.
They're all lined up behind you as you speak.
But you can get a $14K gold money clip with your team's logo engraved on it.
The money clip costs $4,000?
Uh-huh. Well, did you hear me say that it's 14 karat?
But I feel like you could get a nicer money clip for not $4,000.
But, well, you can get a Yankees 10 karat one for $3,000.
Oh. Wait, so the Yankees one is cheaper?
There are two. Mm. They gave a couple options. Okay. In case the 4,600 one was too high for you. They made one for the layman.
I have one for you.
Uh-huh.
This is no longer about use. This is just about discovery. Okay. I have discovered at New York Mets Stars and Stripes. We've just shit all over the United States flag.
Amazing.
It's just a Mets logo and their stars and those
thin
stripes
blue and orange line.
Blue and orange. And you know what? I bet that all of the people who have glared at you over the years for sitting during the national anthem, they wouldn't even bat a fucking eye at this.
Oh, no. They'd say that's patriotism right there.
They don't go comment on this. It's almost gone, Alex. It's almost gone because everybody's buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Shameful. We live in a shameful country.
We really do.
All right, next question. Next question is also about merch. It's almost like I planned it this way. This comes from Josie in the Slack. Josie says, I don't even know what the question is here, but Ben just sent me a picture of Jared Kushner in a dumb, expensive Mets hat. And now I want to know who the most evil person you've ever seen wearing a piece of your team's merch is.
The owner of
Steve
the A's.
Cohen. Yeah. That was my first thought. I don't even have another answer. I mean, it helps that Jared Kushner was wearing a Mets hat, so that's also
right. So that's kind of the answer. Yeah.
Jared Kushner doing his PR recovery tour by wearing an Amy Leon Dior Mets hat.
You think he talks about the Mets in his new book at all?
He has a book out?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're gonna have to do that for the Tipping Pitches book club.
Shit, you're right.
Talk about Patreon content.
I hear it's really good too.
Who do you think his favorite Mets player is?
Brandon Nimmo.
So Kushner is not that kind of conservative. Kushner doesn't like people from Wyoming. He's a fucking New York real estate baron.
Well, yeah.
Heir to a New York real estate baron. He hasn't actually done anything.
Right. But who do you think it would be otherwise? There's no white collar conservatives on the Mets, are there?
Max Scherzer?
No.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Bruh.
Jacob deGrom?
I think he and deGrom would probably have a fine conversation. Yeah.
I think they would. Honestly, I think his favorite Met is Pete Alonso. Namely because he can only name about 4 Mets and because they both seem like incredibly corny white guys.
Right.
So regardless of politics, which honestly, I don't even think you need to set aside politics because I think Pete and him would do fine in a conversation about politics. I think that they would just see eye to eye. Just guys being dudes, Jared and Pete. I'll give them that pod. I'll produce it.
I mean,
that's going to be Tipping Pitches Thursdays going forward, hosted by Jared Kushner and Pete Alonso.
I have no idea where their conversation would go.
I think it might be good.
I believe I have seen a photo of Barack Obama wearing an A's hat.
So he's a fake White Sox fan?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I mean, no, he is a real.
Maybe he
White
just
Sox
knew
fan, but
years ago that the White Sox were going to hire Tony La Russa again. You know, he put that plan into motion by wearing an A's hat. So you're power ranking Obama above John Fisher. I mean, just by sheer volume, he's had more opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going by body count, you know. Just saying.
Next question. Next question, everybody. Thank you for asking. Josie comes from Francesca, whom I have to thank on the pod because Francesca sent me a Los Angeles Dodgers hat from Italian Heritage Night that has the Italian flag on the side, underneath the bill, and on the back in script writing, it says Italia. It's the most beautiful piece of clothing that I own. So thank you to Francesca. Francesca's question is, how upset would you be if the Cardinals won the World Series this year, but they only did it because Albert Pujols was impossible to get out, somehow starts mashing against righties the way he's been killing lefties, wins NLCS MVP, wins World Series MVP, and completely carries the team? So I guess on like a scale of 1 to 100, Cardinals win the World Series, but it's all because of Albert. Where are you at?
As the Adam Wainwright of podcasters, I'm in on it.
I thought we were both Adam Wainwright.
Well, yeah. Or is one of us Adam and is one of us Yachty?
I thought you were going to say it's one of us Adam and is one of us Wainwright. I was like, that's gonna take the cake for worst joke you've ever made, dude. Neither of us are Yachty. No, we're both soft as shit.
Yeah,
Yachty is
yeah. No
not.
gold gloves in this room.
It's not about gold gloves, dude. It's about most positive interactions.
That's right. We're getting those positive interactions up. I just want to say we were at a Mets game last night and ran into a couple tipping pitches listeners. And it's always a joy to talk to folks.
Right.
So, we're putting in that work too.
We are.
Don't rule us out.
Just like Adam Wainwright, we thought that the Union should have just kept the last UBA too.
Yes.
Famously, we're exactly
Right,
like Adam
famously,
Wainwright. 1 to 100. How mad? Albert Pujols gets his ride off into the sunset. Just like when he left the Cardinals in 2011, he goes out on top.
I'm kind of not mad about that, at all. I'm
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the last episode of Tipping Pitches. This has been a lot of fun to do. I have a Cardinals apologist in the room with me, and I can no longer podcast.
I guess these days, I just don't find them to be any more pernicious of an organization than a dozen other teams.
I know. They've been lapped.
They kind of have been lapped.
Yeah.
They need to pick up the slack a little bit.
Right. They've been passed by all of the obscene tanking teams.
Mm-hmm.
They've been passed by the Astros.
Yeah.
Passed by the Braves, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, passed by the Yankees. Because I can't stand Hal.
Right.
At least when it was George, it was yeah, you were actually spending and winning.
Yeah.
Now you're just not spending and not winning.
So, I think I'm good with this. But again, I want it to be because Albert Pujols
Right, but that's the question.
is the guy.
Obviously,
right?
if he gets hurt and you have to watch fucking Nolan Arenado not be able to go to Toronto or something, that kind of sucks.
Right.
But
put Albert at third, maybe?
I'm Albert at third. Wow. He has a couple games there in his career.
Yeah.
Didn't look pretty.
No.
So okay, if the Cardinals win the World Series, I'm at 100 in a normal year. If it's all because of Albert, and everybody just bends the knee and acknowledges what a wonderful career and what a wonderful, everlasting impact he's had on the game, I'd say I'm a 98.
What?
I hate the Cardinals, dude. I don't think you understand how much trauma in my baseball life is because of the Cardinals. It's not just that they beat the Mets in the 2006 NLCS Game 7 at Shea. It's not just that. But it's everything that happened to the Mets after that. I blame them for it. It's their fault.
Oh.
So, yeah, no. I'm never going to be under a 95 if the Cardinals win anything important. I hate them. I weirdly like a lot of players on that team now.
Yeah, I know. Would your answer change at all if the Mets were out of contention this year? Or no, you still wouldn't be able to stomach it?
They're not, baby. Best record in the NL. Let's go Mets. It's all about the Mets. Would my answer change if the Mets were out of it? Yeah, I'd probably go down a little bit. Okay. Down to the barrel, which was bottom of the barrel, which is 95.
Okay, all right.
You're telling me that you want to watch all those Cardinals fans get rewarded again? Again? A freaking again? Come on.
Look, I don't, but what are our options? Our options are watching Yankees fans get rewarded.
And all the QAnon people are going to be this is because Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado didn't take the vaccine. This is why they won.
Yeah, I'm ready for that. I welcome it.
Yes. I have to say, though, they're not the team that I would want to win least.
Who is that?
Braves, by far.
Mm-hmm.
Back-to-back Braves World Series.
That would be really hard to stomach.
Just such a punch in the gut, you know?
Yeah.
I think it goes Braves, Yankees, Cardinals. No, because I rooted for the Yankees in the 2009 World Series, so I have to put the Phillies above them. So maybe it goes Braves, Phillies, Cardinals, Yankees.
So
core four right there.
but you would be at like a 95 at best or you would be at like a 95 at worst if the Cardinals won. So does that mean you will just be at like a 100 if like a third of the teams in the playoffs win?
Please do not underrate my capacity for rage.
I would never. I've seen it firsthand.
You didn't live in the same city as me last year,
right?
During the World Series,
right?
I was like real, like seethed, you know, like when people are trolling online and they're like seethed. That was actually me.
You were coping. I was hard
coping. I was rooting for the Dodgers like I was Bernie Sanders in 1940. You know, like I was going hard.
Yeah,
I was going to bars. I was hanging out with Dodgers fans. I was like, come on, let's get after it. Lifelong Dodgers fan right here.
That's a real tough beat.
So yes, Braves are 100.
Same with the Phillies.
99.
Phillies are 100.
99.
They're 99. Cardinals are 98.
Right.
Yankees like 95.
You're not as much of a team hater as me.
No, not in recent years.
You don't get like furious about the stuff that like you're not directly related to.
Yeah, I just don't have the capacity for it anymore, man.
So were you like hot when the Astros won in 2017?
Nah.
No?
No. That was a fun World Series, man.
It just could not be me. It just could not be me. I mean, the Astros are not really like a rival of the A's. They just came to the AL within the last 15 years.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
they haven't been really good at the same time.
No, although that kind of mid 2010s run is kind of when the Astros really start to come into their own, right? So there's a period of time
and prevented the A's from winning the division, like
right,
a few years,
exactly.
Yeah.
And like Verlander killed the A's when he was on the Tigers, and then he killed the A's when he was on the Astros. So like,
yeah, but
there's
that's
like,
not personal. He kills everyone.
I know he does kill everyone, but when he's like single-handedly eliminating us from the playoffs like 3 years in a row, you take that one to heart a little.
That
bit.
guy's 41 with a sub-2.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's just stupid.
Could not be me. Cooked at 26. Yeah. Can't even do a pod anymore.
Could not be us.
So who's like your number one? Who's enemy number one? Is it the Yankees?
Like in the playoffs or just broadly?
In the playoffs. I suppose broadly too.
I think it's probably the Yankees or the Braves. Braves are pretty bad. I mean, like as far as just
they're despicable.
Watching an actual game featuring them like at their ballpark,
yeah,
it's hard. It's really hard. Yankees, I just think, I mean, again, God willing, I won't have to not root for them in the playoffs because they won't be there.
The Yankees are not missing the playoffs, dude. Unless you know about some change to the playoff format again.
Yeah, dude.
In which case, we got to go back and re-record the first 30 minutes of this pod.
The third one.
Okay. That does it for another episode of Tipping Pitches. Thank you to everybody for listening. Once again, live watch along on playback Tuesday, September 20th, 6:45 p.m. Eastern. Please come join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. The link will be sent out if you're a patron, and it might be tweeted out if you're not. Who knows? We'll see. Just check our socials around that time. Thank you to the 5 members of our Alex Rodriguez VIP Club tier on the Patreon. That is our top tier. It is $12 a month. There are so many of you, and we are so grateful that we shout out 5 of you at the end of every episode. Those 5 members this week are Justine, Neil, Kyle, Tony, and Lisa. Only 20% of those birthed you. It's good. And only 20% of those people are a friend of ours who hosts a great podcast called Big Screen Sports, where we just talked about High Flying Bird just last week. So if you're interested in film, if you're interested in labor, go check out Big Screen Sports. Check out our episode with Kyle Banduho. Anything else to leave the people with, Alex?
Is now where we talk about Ke'Bryan Hayes and his sunflower debacle at third base against the Mets the other day.
I didn't tell you this, but I actually did a 90-minute solo pod that I put on the feed already. I know you don't listen,
fuck.
So
okay.
I already got all my thoughts out.
I'll go back and listen and just kind of talk out loud as you do it.
That'd be a really roundabout way to do a pod. Please do talk out loud when you listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
It's the right way to be consumed.
There
It's
have-
the way that we want you to consume the podcast.
There is a non-zero amount of people who have said they sometimes involuntarily just kind of say their responses to our conversation while they're listening.
Those are our friends, man.
They
Those
are.
are our friends.
They
Friends
are.
of the pod. No, now's the time where we talk about Taylor Swift's album that doesn't exist yet.
Oh,
Just another
theories. What are the
just
theories?
30-second takes at a time.
It's going to be 13 songs.
I have a question. How are we programming around that? Because, like, not everybody listening to this pod cares about Taylor Swift.
Right.
But enough people listening to this pod care enough. It's not like we can't talk about it.
Right.
And we want to talk about it.
I mean, is it going to be a Patreon exclusive discussion?
I think Taylor Swift's for the people, man. I think it should be free.
She is for the people.
Just like her concerts are so affordable and easy to get to.
Or maybe we do like a live listen, like a debut kind of listening party.
Well, we'll need to do that for Taylor Swift's album because we want to iron out the kinks for what our actual important live listen along is, which is the CD that you purchased of Cowboy Joe West's album.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like it. Live listen along.
Okay,
Taylor
we're
Swift's
working on the
album.
production calendar, but rest assured, there's a lot of just music analysis coming.
That's truer and truer by the day. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Tipping Pitches. We will be back next week.
Right here, right now, right stop, right down, baby, lock in, right now, I want it right here.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alex Rodriguez. Tipping Pitches.
Tipping pitches.
This is the one that I love the most.
Tipping pitches.
So we'll see you next week. See ya!